Slightly out. Correcting it pretty loud.
What up, guys? Welcome to another episode of Weaponry, and it is time for us to boost up the GD86. I would say the car has enough power, but of course Dan disagrees. But at the end, is there ever enough power? Nope. So let's get down to business and mount this supercharger to Subaru FA20 engine. Let's boost the sucker. So first, we need the tools. And beside the tools, we need to lift up the car with our Autolift 3000. A super nice invention, check it out. And as we're gonna lift the car, we need to remove the bumper and other parts like protective covers, bumper reinforcements, horns, all that tiny bits. Yep. So of course, before we begin with the installation, we need to check out the manual, which is, by the way, in Japanese. So here in first row it says GD2 supercharger. Yeah, I can read Japanese with a Google Translate. Let's go to the part list. Screw, supercharger, blah blah blah. Okay, so now we need to proceed to the upper part to remove all the air filter ducts and pipes and resonators and all that nonsense stuff. We need to remove all the pipes of the intake because this is all gonna change, it's gonna get different. Especially this one here. This is a bit of a trick they used at Toyota or Subaru or whatever you want to call it. It's a pipe that leads into the interior, so you can get like a feeling of the engine sound and feeling like you're flying 300 on the highway, but it's so stupid. All the piping is gone now. Now, next up, the alternator. We need to remove the belt first. And what we're gonna do is, we're gonna loosen the tensioner. And while we loosen the tensioner, then we'll pull down the belt. So, let's give it a go. Alright. Perfect. We have removed probably all the unnecessary stuff or all the stuff that we're gonna need later. Now we can begin preparing stuff to mount the front mount intercooler. This process will take some fabrication because we need to cut some stuff, make some new holes, and yeah, we'll see. Alright, so back to some more fabrication. We need to cut these brackets that are actually mounts for the air conditioning condensator. So we need to cut it like here, and this one we need to fully cut off like here. Another part that we need to fabricate is this alternator mount, and as marked here, we need to cut this thing off so we can mount the bracket for the supercharger. The horn also needs some adjustment, just a little tweak, no fabrication needed. We just need to remove one mount, and this one we need to twist towards the connector. So that's it, we just need to tighten the bolt. Another thing that we need to fabricate is this air condition AC condensator pipe clamp, and we need to shave this for like 2 to 3 millimeters, so then the coolant fluid tank can be mounted here and it's not hitting this clamp. Let's get down to business. Now we need to mount back the AC condensator mount, which we modified earlier, and then we're gonna mount back the horn and the temperature sensor. And this is how the relocated horn looks and the air temperature from up above. And to move on to the next part, we're gonna remove, as they call it, radiator support, because we also need to do some fabrications to it and make some space for more parts. Now we need to cut the radiator support here all the way to here, cut this bit out, and drill 2 5mm holes here and 2 5mm holes on the top for some zip ties that we're gonna put on later. The alternator bracket that we fabricated earlier, we're gonna mount it now back on and then try the supercharger mount if it works or if it hits something. Yeah, let's see. As we install the mount for the alternator, now we need to install the alternator itself. You won't believe that. Now, before test fitting the supercharger mount, we need to remove one more screw from timing chain cover. More fabrication needed is also on the oil level stick. So we need to unmount it and move it a bit aside. And later we're gonna fabricate it. This is the supercharger mount. I'm not sure, I think this is the right side. So we're gonna test fit that and see if the tensioner hits it, because if it does, then we need to do some more fabrication. So finger crossed that it's gonna be flush. Another thing that we need to fabricate, or better say remove because it's so stupid, is the resonator of the air intake filter. So we need to drill the holes to the rivets, remove it and put a cap on it. Let's go. So this is the cap or plug or whatever you want to call it, that we plug the resonator of the intake. But the thing is, we need to fabricate it a bit so it doesn't hit this plastic bit here. We already draw what we need to cut, so let's get on to business. Ta-da! Like straight out of the factory. In the next step, we need to remove the AC compressor so we can get to the solenoid that's underneath it and we can connect some vacuum hoses to it. Make sure you are not disconnecting these hoses. So we just move it aside. There is something that's really bad described in the instructions, and from what we've heard, like all of these force induction kits for the GD86 have like really poorly described this next step. The thing is, under the intake manifold, there is like this vacuum solenoid that has 2 hoses attached to it. The thing is, these hoses don't have safety clamps, and when the supercharger or turbo boosts up the pressure, they can fall off and, you know, there is a leak and the engine will not work properly. And the problem is that you cannot locate the problem because, like I mentioned, it's really poorly described what you need to do, and some even don't have this in the instructions. So what we're gonna do, we're gonna remove this solenoid, which is kind of a tricky because it's really under the intake manifold, and we're gonna put on some safety clamps. So the solenoid is located under this intake manifold, and to remove it, there is this M6 nut from the other side. For easier access, we remove the throttle body and the AC compressor as well. So you see, this is loose and this is loose. Let's get those safety clamps on and move on with our supercharger build. We fixed the solenoid bit, and now to the main thing, putting on the supercharger. So we need to cut the blow-by hose or some kind of a vacuum hose. You need to cut it 15 millimeters. HKS supercharger build is complete. Before we go on dyno with Hemi at Stunka, we will need to add some liquids, traction fluid, to check the engine oil, and we're gonna measure the beast and see what are the gains. You know what you need to do. Till next time, make sure you subscribe to our content, like and share our videos. Till next time, see ya!
Shark 46, 2 miles out.